If you are ready for spring, you are going to love this video. I'm going to be giving you 30, yes, 30 DIY spring ideas, so let's get started. I thrifted these two baking pans and I liked that they were two different sizes. I liked the texture on the top and the bottom of them, and I really liked the hardware on them. I sprayed them with a coat of white primer, and now I want to paint them using the baking soda and paint technique. This paint will definitely make it look less like a baking pan and more like a piece of pottery. I'm going to put 2 coats of paint on both the pans inside and out. Now I'm going to take this old wooden spindle that I had in my stash and I'm going to make a tiered tray. I knew when I saw these two pans in two different sizes that they would make the perfect tiered tray. I'm just using a combination of Gorilla Glue and hot glue to put all the pieces together. And after I show y'all the final reveal, hang on because I have one more project I want to show y'all with these baking pans. I always pick up these glass domes when I find them at the thrift store. You can always make a base or find something to use. Look how perfectly it fits on top of here. Y'all will not even believe how cute this looks styled up. There are always plenty of frames to find at the thrift store, and I like to specifically look for thick wooden vintage frames, and anytime I find wooden spoons I always grab them. So we're going to be using those two thrift store items for this project. A lot of times with these vintage frames, I actually love the back of the frame more than the front, and that is the case with this one. So I'm actually going to turn the back of the frame into the front of the frame. It did not have a piece of glass or a piece of cardboard backer on this frame, so I just have a thick piece of cardboard that I cut to the size that I need, and using some spray adhesive, I am attaching a piece of drop cloth to my cardboard. Now, since I am going to be using the front of the frame as the back, there's no lip or ridge or anything for me to set my cardboard into. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hot glue the drop cloth to the front of the frame, and that'll keep it in place. I wanted some very tiny bird eggs for this project. However, I could not find any at the store that was small enough, so I just decided to make my own. I'm going to use IOD air dry clay, and all you do is just kind of roll it up in the palm of your hand to an egg shape, and then you're just going to let it dry. It was so easy, and these turn out absolutely adorable. Once my clay was dry, I wanted to add some tiny speckles to the egg to really make them look realistic. So I have a little bit of beige paint and a little bit of gray paint, and I'm just lightly dipping my toothbrush into the paint and just flicking it onto the eggs, and this worked perfectly. They truly looked like little tiny bird eggs when I was done. Now I want to create some little tiny nests inside my spoon so I can put my little tiny eggs in them. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to the spoon and just a little bit of moss. I do want it to look like a nest, but I want to be able to see the outer edge of my spoon, so it's not taking a lot of moss at all. Then I hot glued my eggs to the nest. Now I'm going to take my 3 spoons and add them to my framed art piece that I created earlier. I always see these French metal flower buckets at the thrift store, and they usually have some kind of crazy pattern on them. They are super easy to paint and make it your own style. So this one I'm actually going to be painting black, but of course you could go with more of a spring color. And then to make it look a little more antiqued, I'm going to be adding the Waverly antiquing wax to this piece. I love mixing this with black, and I did spray a coat of Rust-Oleum clear coat on top of the black before I put the antiquing wax, that way it would not rub off. So you just put the antiquing wax on your piece and you take a paper towel and you rub it off. Next, I'm going to take a small piece of drop cloth that I've already cut to the size that I thought would look good on this particular bucket. And I'm taking one of the IOD sprig stamp and the IOD black ink, and I am just going to stamp this piece of drop cloth. And then I'm going to take my wet brush from the Waverly Antiquing Wax and just antique the edges of this drop cloth. Once it is dry, I'm going to glue it onto my bucket. And once it was glued onto my bucket, I felt like it needed a little something more. So I took the tops of some thumbtacks and just also glued them to my canvas. And I think that added a little extra detail that this bucket needed. I feel like this DIY started with the bucket and ended with the label. I love how this label came out. It was so fun to make, and I think you could add it to items you may already have around your home, like a basket. It would look so good on a basket. Thrifted this birdhouse because I liked how tall it was and how it had two different levels and these two little drawers. It did have some crackling in the paint, so before I repainted it, I just wanted to give it a light sanding. I also purchased this riser at the thrift store for, I believe, $2.99. And I actually want to attach it to the bottom of my birdhouse. So I'm going to use a combination of Gorilla Glue that is going to permanently hold it and some hot glue so that way it'll stick right now and I can move on to the next step in this project. I want to make these two pieces that I just put together look like one bigger piece. So I'm going to paint the entire thing with white paint. I'm going to put 2 coats of paint on here, and then I'm going to lightly distress it with some 220 grit sandpaper. I really wanted to add some wood tone elements to this birdhouse, so I just cut out some 5mm underlayment to the same size as the roof. And I want it to be a little bit more darker, a little bit more aged, so I'm just adding some watered down antiquing wax to my pieces of wood. And once my paint is all dry, I'm going to hot glue the wood pieces to the top of my birdhouse. Now for the fun part, we can start embellishing this birdhouse. So I took the bigger drawer and I'm just hot gluing some foam to the bottom front of it. And then I'm just going to add in these sprigs of greenery that I purchased from Walmart. I think these little pink flowers will just look so cute with the look I'm going for on this house. Next, I'm going to add some embellishments using the IOD Alpha Belly stamp. I really love this stamp because it works with all their font stamps, but it also has all this cute floral on it that you can use on its own. I'm using the China blue color, and I had it on the thin mount, but I realized that wasn't going to work, so I had to do it by hand. And I only put a tiny bit of ink on here because I wanted to really have a distressed faded look. Actually, this was a little bit too bright for me. So once my ink was dry, I actually went back with some 220 grit sandpaper and sanded these stamps down a little bit more. I just wanted to have a very faded, worn look. I love how this piece came out so much, and I think it would be fun to do a whole collection of these for spring. You could use different types of birdhouses and different size risers and candlesticks. Baskets are probably one of the things that I thrift the most. And what I liked about this basket is it had that solid wood background. I like the rectangular shape. It is missing a handle and you could remove the other handle, but I am not. We are going to do something with that one handle. I'm going to paint my wood background and then I'm going to come back and lightly distress it. I was not planning on white waxing this basket, but once I had the background painted white, I decided to go ahead and white wax the entire basket. Now, it does take a minute to do this, so you just want to make sure before you start that is definitely something that you want to do. And I think it really just gave this basket more of a spring look, so I personally liked the white wax look. I thrifted this little glass jar and I think it is the perfect piece to add to this basket, and I'm going to use Gorilla Glue to attach it. You just want to make sure that you let this dry overnight before you mess with it. I styled this basket for a kitchen using the remaining handle to hang a tea towel. However, I think it would also look great in a bathroom. You could hang a hand towel and you could change out the floral in the glass jar for the different seasons. You cannot go wrong thrifting a small wooden crate. There are just so many different things that you could do with it. If you have been wanting to try a transfer, I highly recommend the IOD Brocante transfer. It has 8 pages in it, and these designs are perfect for small pieces. I have been using this packet for so many different projects. For this project, I decided to use the white flowers because I am not going to be painting the crate. I thought the white flowers would really stand out. Now what I'm going to do is just cut my transfer apart where I think it would naturally maybe come apart, and then I'm going to piece it back together on my crate. That way I could do the front of the crate and also do some of the sides of the crate. I'm even cutting it up on the crate just so that the transfer is not all in the cracks. I want to try to get as much of it as possible on the crate. And then you're just going to take your transfer tool and you're going to rub your transfer, and it comes off really easy. You'll kind of see it changing colors as it releases from the backer paper. So you don't have to use the transfer exactly like it comes. You can cut it up and piece it together just like I am doing. So I'm going to take all the pieces of this transfer and then put it back together on the crate to create the look that I want. Now this crate is looking pretty good, but I have a feeling adding some white wax will take it to the next level because that is what white wax always does. Also, when you are using transfers on wood, you definitely want to seal them in. So if you don't use a white wax or an antiquing wax, you definitely want to use a clear wax. So you're just going to apply your white wax, and then with a lint-free rag or a paper towel, you are just going to wipe it off, and look how amazing this looks. I told y'all, white wax always brings pieces to the next level. I love using birds not only in my own home, but a lot in my designs. So although these 2 birds are very cute as is, I have a plan for them. I want them to look old and rusty and crusty. So I'm going to put a layer of black chalk paint on them. Then I'm going to come back with a layer of the antiquing wax, and then I'm going to add a little cinnamon. The combination of these three things definitely give brand new pieces this old, aged, rusty look. Once I sprinkle the cinnamon on, I just kind of rub it into the antiquing wax using my fingers, and I will seal this up with a clear coat, and that'll keep everything in place. I thrifted this glass piece. It was 99 cents. I'm assuming it is from some kind of light fixture, but it has a flat top. And I also have this little cutoff spindle. I never throw away these little cutoffs because you never know when you might need it for a project. Using a combination of hot glue and Gorilla Glue, I'm going to attach the bird to the glass, and this is going to make a beautiful antique looking cloche. And then I'm going to attach my bird to the spindle, and y'all, this is the most adorable piece of decor. I'm definitely going to have to find more birds to do this because I am obsessed with how this piece came out. I purchased this very large artwork at a garage sale for very inexpensive, and I'm going to take it and turn it into something that is more my style. The first thing I want to do is paint the frame because I don't like the gray. I would like the frame to have a brown wood look. For the background, I'm going to be using drop cloth. I love drop cloth. I use it all around my house. I love the texture and the warmth that it gives pieces. So I'm just going to cut my drop cloth to size, and then I'm going to hot glue it just around the edges because hot glue does give it a little bit of a raised texture, and I don't want that in the center of my piece. So I'm just going to tightly hot glue all of the edges. So now that I have the background and the frame looking the way that I want, we're going to add some artwork. I'm going to be using IOD's Flora Pernicensis. I think that's how you say it. It's a beautiful floral print. It comes with tons of flowers and botanicals, and lots of typography. Now, I'm not going to be using this whole piece, but you can definitely use it all together, or you can cut it up. That's what I love about IOD's transfers, is you can just use the pieces that you need, or you can use it all together. So on this artwork, I just want to have 3 pieces of floral. So I picked out the 3 that I liked, and then I taped them how I wanted them to go. You can absolutely use transfers on fabric. I use it all the time to create artwork. I don't seal it or anything because, you know, it just stays on the wall. You're not touching it. So I just leave it as is. It looks beautiful. It works great. All of your transfers come with a transfer tool, and you just push down on the art and it comes right off onto your fabric or wood or whatever piece you are using the transfer on. I absolutely love the way that this came out, and it actually hangs in my home in the girls' bathroom. Y'all leave a comment below and let me know if you have ever tried a transfer on fabric. And I love this particular transfer so much that we are actually using it in the next project as well. Whenever I find little pencil holders or little blocks of wood with lots of holes in it, I always pick them up because they make very unique pieces of home decor. I painted this one white, and now I'm just going to lightly distress it with some 220 grit sandpaper. It's looking great as is, but I just want to add a few more little touches to it. I think some typography would be beautiful. So I'm using the Flora transfer again, and I'm going to cut just one little piece of typography and one little sprig of greenery. And I'm going to add this to my little pencil holder, and I just think it's a perfect little extra touch. The reason that I like thrifting these is because I love putting little sprigs of greenery in the holes, which makes it absolutely perfect for spring. I bet y'all never guessed at the beginning of this DIY that it would turn out so cute. So y'all leave a comment below and let me know what y'all think of this pencil holder. I thrifted this clock, and I am not interested in using it as a clock, so I want to see if I can turn it into a piece of spring decor. It's not showing up on camera, but the face of the clock had lots of scratches on it. So I decided to just spray paint the whole thing white. That way I just have a clean, fresh piece to start off with. I was not liking the detail at the bottom, and the metal pieces on the side of the clock definitely gave me French country vibes. So I just decided to lean into that look and go French country with this clock. To cover up the detail that I do not like and also make this clock more French country, I'm going to be adding a mold. I am using IOD's Trimmings Mold 3, and I'm just going to add some air dry clay to it. You want to make sure you dust it with some kind of cornstarch before. That way your clay does not stick to the mold, and you can interlock these trimming molds. So I'm just going to create as many as I need to go around the entire clock. I'm going to use Gorilla Glue to attach my molds to the piece, and I don't know about y'all, but I think this looks so much better already. Now, I decided to turn my clock into a piece of decor, but you could definitely not paint the face of your clock and still do all the steps that I am doing to transform your piece. Now I need to add something to the face of the clock, and I am going to be using IOD's Birdsong mode. This is one of my favorite molds, and these birds just look so cute on everything. I also think you could decoupage something on the face of the clock, and that would also look amazing and kind of make it look like a round picture frame. There's so many different ideas and projects you could do with a clock like this. I'm going to attach my birds to the piece using Gorilla Glue, and then I am going to let my clay dry overnight. I'm going to be using Fusion Paint in the color French Eggshell, which I think is the perfect color for spring. I absolutely love this color, and y'all don't forget all of the paint, IOD, and other products that I am using in this video can be found in the description and on my website at juliesdesignsandsigns.com. I do want to add some texture to this piece since there are lots of places where it is, just flat and slick. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of baking soda to the Fusion Mineral Paint. And then I'm going to go in with my paintbrush and I am just going to stipple the baking soda and paint mixture on the entire piece. This is going to create a lot of texture, which we will want because the next step is to white wax this piece. So when you add white wax, it's going to bring out all of the details in that texture that we just created with the baking soda, and then also in the mold. So you just apply your white wax and then you wipe it off with a dry paper towel, and it just really, really brings out the details. And I love the mix of white wax with this French eggshell fusion paint color. I absolutely love the shape and size of this basket, but I want to add some embellishments to it. So I'm going to take IOD's Village Market Mode. Y'all, this one is so cute. It has a cow, a sheep, a pig, and then it has some little weed and floral embellishments. It is absolutely perfect for spring. I'm going to be using the pig and the two little floral embellishments, and I'm just going to put my IOD air dry clay into my molds. I want to give my molds a faux wood look. To achieve this effect, I'm just going to brush on some watered down antiquing wax. They have been drying for about 30 minutes, so the antiquing wax is dry. However, the clay is not fully dried yet. I want to attach it to the basket while it is still just a little bit wet. That way I can really form it to the basket's shape. I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue to attach my molds to the basket. This is what I use all the time for my clay molds. Whether I glue them on while they're still wet or dry, it works out perfectly. So I'm just going to apply it to the back of the mold, and then I like to kind of rub the glue with my finger and make sure it is on every part of the mold. And this also keeps the glue from dripping. It keeps you from having too much glue on your piece. So I'm going to do this to all my pieces and then apply them to this basket. And I think that adding the molds definitely made a big difference, but y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm going to be using the Whispering Willow transfer, which may be one of the sweetest transfers I have ever seen. It is 8 pages of cuteness, y'all. They have all these cute forest creatures and these mushrooms and all these amazing florals and leaves, and they all have this beautiful watercolor look to them that I absolutely love. I always look for glass globes at a thrift store that I could turn into cloches, and these are perfect, and I only paid 50 cents each for them. There's so many options in this transfer, but for these two cloches, I decided to use this green sprig and also this beautiful blush pink piece. I like to tape my transfer onto my piece just using painter's tape, and then I remove the white backer. That way, if it happens to move, I have the tape as reassurance. However, I can tell you on glass, transfers come off very easy. Now, when you are removing your clear backer, you just want to do it slowly. That way, if you have any areas that haven't transferred, you can just put it back down and rub your transfer tool over it. And then I like to just gently go over the transfer with my fingers, just making sure it is fully adhered to the piece. It looks absolutely beautiful on glass, but I have used transfers on so many different materials, and so far I have not found anything that a transfer will not stick to. It's kind of like the adult version of a sticker. Once you start using them, you will be addicted. I promise you will love transfers, and they look so beautiful on absolutely everything. To turn these glass globes into a cloche, we need to add a topper. I have these brass doorknobs that fit perfectly on top of here, and I think the brass pairs perfectly with the transfers that I chose. So I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and Gorilla Glue to attach these to the glass. This is going to be my spin on the tin can project that everybody has been doing. I think it's absolutely perfect for spring and a great little hanger to put some cute little florals in. So of course you want to start off with a clean tin can, and then you want to remove the bottom of your can. I just used a regular can opener from the store. It worked fine. Then you're going to want to take a rubber mallet and you're just going to lightly hit it. I'm not hitting it very hard. It doesn't take much effort at all to do this. And I just put a piece of wood under my can, and as you can see, it's closing up perfectly with very little effort. Now I want to drill a hole in each side so I can add a hanger. I just have, a regular round drill bit on my drill, and I'm going to drill a hole in each side, and make sure you have a piece of wood under your can. That way you don't drill a hole into your work surface. I've seen these cans finished off in so many different ways. I decided to add drop cloth fabric to mine because, I just love drop cloth. And I used a spray adhesive because I did want some of those ridges to show. So I just put the spray adhesive on and then put my drop cloth over it. Now I'm cutting a seam in the back and I'm just going to hot glue that down. The excess fabric on the top, I am just going to tuck into my can, and I'm going to glue it down in a minute. I'm gonna just leave it as is for now. And then at the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the excess, and I'm going to hot glue it together so that way it doesn't open up or anything. I need to put a hole in my drop cloth where I have a hole in my tin can, so I am just using my fabric scissors to poke a hole. Now, after putting this project together, I realized that putting a hole in your tin can isn't 100% necessary. You can just simply hot glue your ribbon or string or whatever you decide to use to your tin can. So if you want to skip the step of putting a hole in your tin can, that is 100% fine. I always keep the hemmed edges of my drop cloth in case I want to use it on little projects like this. I am hot gluing one piece at the bottom, and then I'm going to hot glue another piece all around the top. I'm going to have my seam in the back with my other seam, so you really won't be able to see it. But I just love the little extra detail that this provides. I thought a beaded hanger would look so perfect with the drop cloth. I think it already looks really cute, especially after you add some floral to it. But I'm going to take it one step further and add a transfer from the Iron Orchid Designs Brocante transfer book. Y'all, it comes off so easy on this drop cloth. Even the tiny little antennas on this butterfly transfers perfectly. I can see why people are absolutely loving this project. It's so easy, it's so fun, and there's so many different directions that you can go. So y'all let me know what you think about my take on the tin can project. I purchased a set of 3 wooden containers at a garage sale for $3. Now, they look okay as is, but we are going to take it to the next level using the olive crest mold. I want to use the mold that is in the center. It kind of looks like a little label or a little frame, and I think it is going to be perfect to apply to the 2 square boxes. So I'm going to make 2 of these labels using the IOD air dry clay, and then using Gorilla Glue, I'm going to glue them to the boxes. Now these I glued on right away because they easily hold their shape. However, on the longer tray, I want to use these kind of more frilly pieces on the side of the mold. This one is more pliable. So I find with the more pliable, movable molds, I like to let them dry in place and then glue them down. I just find it so much easier. So honestly, it just depends on the project and on the mold if I let the clay dry before I glue it down or if I glue it down right away. So I'm just taking these 2 pieces of clay and I'm going to put them exactly like I want them to look on here, and I'm going to let them dry and stiffen them up and then glue them. That way they stay exactly how I want them to be. My clay and my glue has dried overnight, and now I'm ready to move on to the next step. I really want to add some white wax to the entire piece. I want to apply a stamp to the little labels that I created on the boxes. I'm going to be using IOD's letterpress stamp. You get 3 different fonts in this stamp, and they are the size that are perfect to embellish any piece. And I want to show y'all something with the thin mount. If you are stamping, I highly recommend ordering 2 thin mounts. One to keep in a large size and one to cut down, so that you have all kind of different sizes of thin mounts to use for all your different projects. It's going to make stamping so much easier. So I'm just going to use the number 1 and the number 2 and the black IOD ink, and I'm going to just apply 1 stamp on each label, and I think it's just the perfect little detail, the perfect little embellishment for this little wooden box set. I picked up this piece at the thrift store because I really liked the chunkiness of it, and I also really liked the shape on the lid. I also think this is the perfect canister set to add some IOD modes to. So I'm going to be using 2 different modes. I'm going to be using the IOD birdsong mode and also the cameo mode. The cameo mode has these 2 little tiny birds on it that I think will be perfect to add to the lid. I added cornstarch to the bottom of the mold to keep the clay from sticking, and I'm just using IOD clay. You just simply push it in the mold and then use your finger to rub off any excess, and then they should pop right out. And even these tiny birds are just full of details. So that's why you want to make sure you do not miss that cornstarch step. That way you can easily get them out and keep all the detail. Now I'm going to glue all my molds on using Gorilla Glue. I'm going to put 2 birds on the front of the lid, and then I'm also going to put 2 birds on the other side. That way, no matter which way you put the lid, it will look the same. And then the 2 larger birds I'm going to put on the middle of the canister set. To keep them in place as they dry, I'm just going to put some masking tape over them. That way they don't slide down, since it is a rounded surface. I had a good bit of the baking soda and paint mixture from the previous project, so I decided to also go ahead and paint this canister using that same textured paint. This time I'm going to have my brush strokes going around the canister instead of up and down. And I'm also going to take a dry paintbrush and just brush the birds, because I don't want too much texture on the birds, because I do not want them to lose all those beautiful details. I'm adding a little bit of antiquing wax to the antique white paint that I used on the canister. I want to create just a little bit of a darker color. Then using a paper towel, or you could use a sponge or whatever else you have on hand, I'm just going to start dabbing this lighter color. And then I decided that I also wanted a little bit darker color. So I have 3 different colors going on. Now I'm going to go in with both colors. I'm going to dab a little bit of the darker color. I'm going to dab a little bit of the whiter color, just until I get the effect that I want. It was really hard to get around the birds, so I ended up going in with a paintbrush right there. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. You just continue to dab and mix your paint until you kind of get the effect that you want. I want to have different variations of color for kind of a more aged look, but I don't want it to look blotchy. So I'm just going to continue to do this until it looks the way that I want it to look. I did find after kind of blotting it, if I wiped it a little bit, I thought that looked better, because it kind of blended the colors together a little bit more and gave it less of that splotchy look. For the last step, I want to take a very dry brush of the textured original white paint and just dry brush over the whole piece. This definitely brought all the colors together and brought out even more of that beautiful texture that we created. I absolutely love the way that this piece came out, and you could do it in so many different color variations. I just decided to do it in different colors of white because that is definitely my style, and these little birds on this canister are just the perfect touch. I see these little floral wall plaques at this thrift store all the time. I actually really like them. I just think they need to be updated. Now, I absolutely loved the raised florals on here. I just don't like the yellow color of the plaque. So to fix that, all I'm going to do is apply white wax to the entire piece, and then you wipe it off, and that will totally transform the color on here. You can see the difference between the plaque that I white waxed and the one that I did not. What do y'all think? That made a huge difference, right? For this project, I am going to be using a piece of slate, but you could use almost anything, a piece of wood, a pillow, a drop cloth, whatever you have. I'm also going to be using the IOD sprig stamp, which I think are perfect for spring. I have them arranged how I want them on the slate, and I just kind of outlined a background with a pencil. Now I'm using a thin mount, and I'm going to take them off so that way they stay in the exact position that I want. I'm just going to do one good coat of paint on here because I am going to go back and distress it using sandpaper and a baby wipe. I definitely want some of that slate to show back through. I'm going to be using IOD ink in the color Newgrass, which I think is the perfect color to go with the sprigs stamp. And once my stamp is all inked up, I am just going to push it down onto my background. I did put a piece on the bottom of the slate, that way my ink would not get onto the slate. I am so happy with the way this came out. It looks like a beautiful piece of art, and I just love the dainty, detailed look of these sprig stamps. I thrifted this plastic tier tray. It is missing the bottom tier, but that is no big deal because actually all I want is the pieces in the middle. So I'm going to take it apart. I went into my huge stash of baskets and I found 3 baskets that I thought would work perfectly for this tier tray. Now, the top smaller basket already had a nice hole in the middle, but the other 2 did not. So I'm just going to take my drill and put a drill in the center of these baskets. As you can see, all the baskets are different colors. So what I did was I added some antiquing wax and some water together, and I am just going to brush that on top of all these baskets. Now, they will still have a slight variation in color, but they will definitely look much more cohesive after adding this mixture to all 3 baskets. Okay, now I'm ready to put all the pieces together. The bottom piece just had a screw, so I took that out and I put it on my bottom basket. And I started to screw it in and I realized that this part of the basket was a little bit too thick, that it was not fitting. So what I did was I just ended up cutting the 2 pieces that were getting in the way. It did not mess with the integrity of the basket at all, but it gave me enough room to firmly screw in that piece. And then I just added the other 2 baskets with no issues because these were much thinner and fit perfectly. So definitely if you see tier trays at the thrift store, even if they're broken, grab them because you can use the pieces to make your own tier tray. I thrifted this hat because I absolutely love the shape of it, the texture of it, and the color of it. And I knew that it would be perfect to add floral to. I'm just going to take this lavender that I purchased from Walmart and I'm going to cut sprigs off of it and just weaving it in the basket, and also with the help of the hot glue, I'm just going to attach it around the hat until I like the way that it looks. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. You can just keep adding until you like the way that it looks. You could also add ribbon or fabric. I just decided to stick with just the lavender sprigs. I love the way that this project turned out. It was so quick and easy and the perfect thing to add to any decorative hook in your home. I saved these two random pieces from going to the landfill, and I cannot wait to show y'all how it turns out. So the first thing I want to do is try to take off any veneer that's already chipping. It was actually attached on here pretty good, so most of it didn't come off. And then it was painted with this orange color, so I definitely want to get that off at least and get it back to the natural wood. So I'm just taking a high grit sandpaper and I'm just trying to get off that orange paint. Since I sanded this piece, I want to bring all the wood tones back together, and I also wanted to continue to have that old age look. So I just mixed the Waverly Antiquing wax with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to apply it onto my entire piece, and it'll dry to a nice matte aged finish. I cleaned the bottle with soap and water and also ran it through the dishwasher. Luckily, it did not come all the way clean because I don't know about y'all, but I don't mind a little dirt and dinge. That just adds to the character of the piece, right? But the top was broken and it was a little sharp, so I'm just taking some sandpaper and just sanding it down. That way it won't be so sharp. And then these pieces are ready to be put together and staged. Y'all, I love this so much, and this is why I paint all my walls white. That way when I find amazing unique pieces like this is what stands out in my house, not like a dark wall or a bright wall or an accent wall. I want my home decor and these amazing thrifted pieces that I find to be the showstoppers in my home. When I thrifted this wheelbarrow a few months ago, I knew that it would be the perfect item to transform into some spring decor. I am using Fusion paint in the color French Eggshell, which I think is the most perfect spring color. And y'all, look at the coverage on this paint. It only took me 2 coats of paint to cover up this red. And of course, I will have a link in the description below to all the products that I used in today's video. I'm just going to be painting the red. I'm going to leave the wood handles and the black part as is. I want to make some carrots to put in the wheelbarrow, so I am going to be using drop cloth and some little sprigs of greenery from Walmart. Now, no matter what size carrots you want to make, you can use these directions. I am making carrots specifically to a size that will look good in my wheelbarrow. You're just going to take 2 pieces of whatever fabric that you are using and cut it into a carrot shape. I do not use a template. I just kind of cut it organically. We're going for a farmhouse look here, so perfection is not required. And then using a hot glue gun, I am going to glue my 2 pieces of fabric together. And I stopped the hot glue about 1 inch to 1.5 inches from the top of my carrot. This step is not necessary, but I want to go ahead and add some little embellishments to my drop cloth carrot. So I'm going to be using the IOD typesetting stamp. I'm going to use numbers 1 through 4, and I'm just going to put some ink on the stamps and then put them on the carrot. Now the number 1, I realized I had put it way too high on the carrot. So once I scrunched it up and finished the carrot, it would kind of mess up the 1. So I just turned it over and did the other side, so y'all don't look at the other side of the 1 if y'all come to my house. And I'm going to put these lower, and you'll see in the end why they needed to be lower. So just keep in mind the final project when you are stamping. I am not going to be turning my carrots inside out because I really want that raw rustic edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and stuff my carrots. It takes very little stuffing to stuff these tiny carrots, and you just want to use a pencil or something to kind of help get the stuffing all the way to the end. Then I'm going to take 1 sprig of greenery. This I got from Walmart. I believe it's $1, and I think it is just the perfect greenery for the tops of these carrots. To finish off the carrots, I'm just going to add a little hot glue to keep everything in place, and then I'm going to wrap some jute rope around the top a bunch of times for added texture and cuteness, and then these carrots are done. I want to create a hanging tapestry, so I'm going to be using drop cloth. I want it to be long and skinny because I want a beautiful piece of spring artwork to put on the side of my cabinets. So I'm just cutting my drop cloth to the size that I want. We're going to be using the IOD Brocante transfer. This one is 8 pages full of cuteness. I feel like this transfer pack was definitely made for people like me that love doing smalls. There's so much floral and so much typography. How cute would this one be on a set of Crocs? This transfer definitely has lots of French country vibes. They have this set of birds that you could make one long line with, or you could use them separately as well. I feel like the possibilities are endless with this transfer. You know I'm going straight for the floral. I love it. This one is packed with lots of different florals. And this particular one is kind of tall and skinny, which will fit perfectly on my piece of drop cloth. And I'm just going to manipulate it a little bit to make it even a little bit longer. So at the bottom, there's some typography and some smaller floral. And I'm just going to cut that out so that way I can stack it under the piece. I'm going to tape my pieces down, that way I know they will not move, and then I'm going to remove the white backer from it. As you can see, it comes out perfectly. Even that small little type that is on this transfer comes off onto this fabric. And then I'm just using my hand to push it down and make sure everything is attached to the fabric. Now I need to create a little frame for my artwork. I just cut out these 2 pieces of wood, and then using my hot glue gun, I'm going to glue the 2 pieces of wood to my artwork, and then I'm just going to use a piece of jute twine so that way this piece has a way to hang and it is done and ready to go on my cabinet. Purchased this set of growing pots at the dollar store. There's 6 of them for $1, so definitely a great deal. And I'm also going to be using IOD's Cameo mode. On this mode, they have 4 that have a floral design, so those are the ones that I'm going to use for this project. Now I'm going to attach my molds to the pots using Gorilla Glue. My molds are still fresh, so I'm going to be careful and just press very gently. That way I don't push down any of the details that are there. These molds are very small, but they are full of just very cute details that we're going to bring out. For the little birds, I decided it needed a background. So I'm just using one of the frames from the new frame mode, and I'm going to attach that to my pot, and then I'm going to put the little tiny bird molds on top of it, and I think this will be the perfect little French country background for these birds. Oh my gosh, y'all, this is going to turn out so cute. Now we want to bring out all the details in this piece. So the first step is going to be applying white wax. We're just going to apply white wax to the whole piece. You just brush it on and then simply wipe it off with a paper towel. Now to really bring out the details in the mode, we are going to apply the antiquing wax. I have a small brush and I'm going to be very careful and just get it on the mold. And it's the same thing as the white wax. You just simply brush it on and then wipe it off, and it'll wipe off all the high spots, and that wax will seep into all the details, and that's what really brings out all the beautiful details of this mold. You could also apply the antiquing wax first, let it dry, and then apply a white wax over the whole piece. And that's what I actually did on the little bird cup that I made, so you could kind of see the difference. If you apply the antiquing wax first and then the white wax, it's definitely a more muted look. I think both of them come out really pretty, so I just wanted to show you the difference so you could see which way you liked it best. Y'all know I like a muted look, so I couldn't help it. I love the way the bird one came out so much. I went back over and white waxed my molds again. Y'all know I love rusty, crusty kitchen items, so I'm sure it is no surprise that I had to pick these up when I saw them at the thrift store. I love IOD's Brocante transfer. It is perfect for smalls. I have used it in so many projects and I still have lots of the transfer left. I decided to use this floral one to put on the two pots, and I'm going to cut it up. That way I can kind of fit it where I want. So I'm going to put the bigger part of the flower on the bigger pot, and you just take your transfer tool that comes with your transfer and you rub it off. And y'all, this surface is very uneven. It is very rusty, and I am having no issues getting the transfer to come off. On the smaller one, I'm just going to cut up the transfer even a little bit more and piece it together. That way I can get as much of this transfer on the back of the pot as possible. Now this next step is personal preference, but I really like taking a light grit sandpaper and sanding my transfers. This just makes it feel like the transfer has always been on there. We're going to bring back some of that rust and some of that texture that are on these pots. So can y'all see the difference from the small one that I sanded and the bigger one that is not sanded? I thrifted this pot from the thrift store for, I believe, 50 cents, not much at all. And I bought it because it already had the foam in it. So all I need to do is pull out the flower, and then we're going to paint this pot. I'm going to be using the baking soda and paint mixture. It's about half baking soda and half paint. You can use any paint that you want. I've used chalk paint, latex paint, art paint. It doesn't matter. And the more baking soda you put in, the more textured it will be. So I want it to be very textured. So I'm using, like I said, half baking soda and half paint. And as you can see, it adds a ton of texture to this pot. I absolutely love this painting technique. It feels like an old piece of pottery now. Now I'm ready to fill the pot. So I purchased this sprig of lavender from Walmart, and I am just cutting the stems off. That way I can use them each individually. Now, if you have a jigsaw with a metal blade, you can cut these stems off super easy, but I'm just going to use my little wire cutting tool. And then once all your sprigs of greenery are cut, all you have to do is simply stick them into the pot because the foam is already there. Now there was a few spots where the moss was a little bit sparse and I did not have any moss on hand. So what I decided to do was just take my antiquing wax and the areas that the bright green was showing through. I just added some antiquing wax and that did the trick. It blended in perfectly and looked great. I thrifted this metal wire basket. I'm pretty sure it's to hold golf balls, but I really like the look of it and I knew that I could do something with it. But it is just a little bit too shiny and new looking for me. So I'm going to take my antiquing wax and I am just going to rub it over the entire bucket. It really didn't take long to do this. However, if you had some brown spray paint and just wanted to spritz it on here, you would most likely get the same effect, but I didn't have any, so I'm just using what I have. Now this definitely is a little bit more my style. Now I'm going to take this basket that I also thrifted. I always pick up these size baskets when I find them because they are perfect to put stuff in, like this metal basket. And now I'm going to take it and stage it, and y'all are not even going to believe how great this is going to look. I love the size of these canvases that I've thrifted. They are very chunky, so you could either hang them on the wall or they would be the perfect shelf sitters. I decided to paint these in the color French eggshell, and it only took me one coat of paint to cover these. And then I decided to go back with some white wax because I just really wanted some of that canvas texture to show through. I purchased this rug from IKEA. I believe it was $2.99. I absolutely love the texture on it, and I cut it in half and used it for a runner for Christmas, and now I'm going to reuse it for this DIY. So I'm cutting out a little 4" by 4" square, and then I'm going to hot glue it to the center of my canvas. I wanted to create lots of texture and lots of layers on this artwork. So we have the texture and the color of the canvas, then we have the texture and the colors of the square mats, and now we are adding the texture and the color of these cute little IOD bird molds. I used air dry clay, and I'm going to be gluing these to the mats. You just want to make sure that the texture of your mats is facing the same direction. I am not going to be painting these birds because I love the white color and the texture of the clay. And like I said, I just want lots of layers and lots of texture in this art piece. So I think it is perfect as is. Y'all know I was definitely purchasing this piece at the thrift store when I saw it. It is a basket with peg hooks at the bottom. The only thing not to love is this painted on floral. So what I want to try to do is just paint this one piece that has the flowers on it. However, I know that this bright blue paint is definitely going to have some bleed through issues. So the first thing I want to do is just add a liquid top coat on top of the painting. That way I won't have any bleed through issues when I go back and paint it white. Once my paint was dry, I just lightly distressed the edges, and now I want to embellish this piece. This is IOD's new ephemera stamp. It comes with 8 pages of different ephemera, and I am obsessed with these little vintage labels, and I think this long skinny one at the top will be perfect for this basket. I do want to cut it up into 3 different pieces so that way it looks like it is going underneath those 2 strips of the basket that is in the center. These IOD transfers are so easy to use. You just take your tool that comes with your transfer and you rub the transfer off onto your piece. Y'all remember these little pans that I just thrifted? I mean, it is already adorable, but we are about to take it over the edge in cuteness. Like I told y'all, I am obsessed with the labels on the ephemera transfer. So I want to take another small label and add it to this pan. I want to add 4 feet to this little pan. Y'all, this is why I always pick pans up like this. I cannot wait for y'all to see the final product. I am in love with how this little pan turned out. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I really hope that y'all enjoyed today's video, and don't forget that all the products can be found at juliesdesignsandsigns.com. I'll have a link in the description below for y'all. Y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all in the next video.